Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdhec.gov/COVID-19.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House.
Brenda Mallory is the first African-American woman to chair the Council on Environmental Quality. The environmental law attorney is the director of regulatory policy at the Southern Environmental Law Center. Attorney Mallory served as general counsel for the White House Council on Environmental Quality in the Obama administration. And now President Joe Biden has selected her to chair the Council on Environmental Quality, making her the first African-American woman to hold this position. Brenda Mallory, a Black history maker in the Biden-Harris administration.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House. From TaylorMade Productions.
It's Wellness Wednesday, and I'm Trey Taylor, and you're watching Coping with COVID. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. And February is Black History Month, Valentine's Day, American Heart Health Month, all matters of the heart, coincidentally. And today we're talking about heart health. Heart disease, is the leading cause of death in the United States, but it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be you. Dr. Daniel Lackland with the Medical University of South Carolina joins us again to tell us the do's and don'ts for heart disease. Dr. Lackland, thank you so much for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Trey. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Then Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association tells us what we can do today to decrease our chance of heart disease. Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thanks, Trey. Happy Heart Month.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That and more next on Coping with COVID. But first, your COVID community updates. Richland School District 1 is providing free COVID tests for students and staff. Prisma Health will administer tests every Tuesday through the end of the school year to anyone experiencing symptoms. The Comet bus system is launching Don't Miss Your Shot. Beginning tomorrow, they will provide free transportation for those eligible to get their vaccinations. Now, they'll do this through fixed route services and 3 other ways. You can see the information on the screen. You can do it through DART, V-Trip, and the Pickup program. More information on that, again, is on the screen and will scroll throughout the show. The free service will last through 2021. And beginning next week, eligible South Carolinians will be able to get their COVID vaccination from CVS pharmacies. Now, you can make an appointment at 17 pharmacies in 9 cities in the Palmetto State beginning February 9th, with vaccinations starting February 11th. South Carolina is one of 11 states offering COVID vaccinations at CVS. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date listing of times, dates, and location for COVID tests and COVID vaccines, as a matter of fact, in South Carolina. Visit scdhec.gov for more information. You can also visit gogettested.com. You can make an appointment and get locations and results in 48 hours. You can organize a COVID screening at your event or at your neighborhood, and you can get that information from the DHEC Care Line. We can also get information on testing, transportation, and where to get a test and the COVID vaccine. Now, Richland and Clarendon County paramedics are actually offering in-person COVID screening. Call 911 for information. And speaking of COVID vaccines, several places you can get them if you are in the eligible group. At Lexington Medical Center, you can see that information on the screen. Also, if you're a veteran, visit the VA for information on how to get your COVID vaccine. Again, that information is on the screen and we'll be scrolling throughout the show. Kroger pharmacies are also offering COVID vaccine. That information is also on the screen, so check the screen for details. And the South Carolina Bar Association and SC Legal Services will offer a free toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. NAACP is launching their housing assistance program. It started on Monday. This is going to help landlords, mortgage companies, and tenants. For information, contact the Columbia branch of the NAACP. The City of Columbia is continuing their 6-month payment plan for water bills and payment assistance. You can get that up to 75%. And if you need help with virtual learning and virtual working, visit Rashonda Pratt's YouTube channel. Now, the Central Carolina Foundation offers 175 local scholarships for students and adults. Visit yourfoundation.org for more information, and you can see that information online. I actually checked out their website, and those websites, those scholarships are for everybody, everyone from students to adults. If you're in the nursing profession, those are some great scholarships. So check that out. I'm Trey Taylor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. And Wellness Wednesday is sponsored every Wednesday by In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council. Now, if you want help to help manage or prevent your diabetes, visit the In It Together website and Facebook page. As a matter of fact, registration is currently open for an online class from Sallyburis Pharmacy. That information is on the screen. And again, we'll be scrolling throughout the day. Throughout the show. Coping with COVID is streaming live on the Taylor Made production page. That's the home of Coping with COVID. Please go over there, hit like and share. And not only can you watch Coping with COVID Wednesday through Friday, but you can also get all of your COVID related updates. We also are streaming live on YouTube. Want to say hi to all of you YouTubers. Please go over there and hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Twitter and on IG. Wellness Wednesday is also streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. We encourage you to hit like, hit share, and post and share. Want to say hi to Juliet Green for watching. She says, hello, Trey. Hello, Juliet. Also, Jamie Smith says she or he, I don't know if it's Jamie, a female, or Jamie, a male, Jamie. So please correct me. She's watching from Michigan. Thank you so much for watching. And we appreciate you watching Coping with COVID. In It Together SC and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday. And today we're talking about how to protect your heart, not from romance, but from heart disease. So you are not part of this statistic. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. Dr. Daniel Lackland, professor of epidemiology at the Medical University of South Carolina, joins us to share some simple information that we can do to help ourselves and our loved ones. Dr. Lackland, thank you so much for joining us again today. We appreciate you.
Wonderful to be here.
Good. Want to say hi to Richard Butch Goddard, who says good afternoon. Hey there, Richard. Thank you so much for joining us. Want to encourage everybody to post and share so we can get this information to the masses. Because listen, like I said with that statistic, that is an alarming statistic, Dr. Lackland, that heart disease is the number one killer of folks, Black, white, male, female, in the United States.
Absolutely. And it's very, very strong. And most all of us know someone that has heart disease, has died of heart disease, and is illness from heart disease, which also includes stroke. I mean, we have a great deal of this affects our population greatly.
Right. And I was going to ask about that. So when we talk about heart disease, what are we talking about exactly? I think people think heart disease and they just think maybe a heart attack. What are we talking about when we're talking about heart disease? Absolutely.
Trey, it's a wonderful question. And I think one that can get kind of confusing. Typically, because the risk factors are very much the same with it, a lot of times people group heart disease and stroke together and call it cardiovascular disease or vascular disease. Regardless, if we're being very, very specific and want absolute numbers, then that's an important distinction. But for what we're talking about today, cardiovascular disease, we're going to include stroke because we're going to talk about the risk factors and how we can prevent a heart attack and a stroke.
So heart attacks, stroke, and as you said, there are some things that we can do. Now, a lot of this is, and we always hear, well, it's hereditary. It's in my blood. It's in my family. And my mama. And look, I'm one. Both of my parents and my grandmother, both of my parents died of a heart attack in their 50s.
Yes.
They didn't even live to 60. My grandmother, she lasted, lived until her 70s, but she died, as a matter of fact, in front of this TV right behind me of a heart attack.
Yes.
So, like you see, you raise your hand. A lot of us have family members that have heart disease, and we hear all the time, you're going to get it because somebody in your family has it.
Right. And so our risk is here. My risk is like yours. We have this. So we want to be aware of that, which we are. But we also need to be aware there are things that we can do that we can at least delay, maybe not totally prevent the heart attack, but delay it. Let us live a healthy lifestyle for a longer period of time and delay when we begin to have the onset. And we know that we can do that. Plenty of evidence. We know that we can do it.
Right. Before we get to the do's and don'ts of blood pressure, what are some of those things? Let's talk about some of those things we can do right now to lessen our chance if we are maybe predisposed to it through a family member.
I think it's wonderful. First off is exactly what you've done, and that's be aware of what our conditions are. Be aware that we're all at risk for heart disease, but how much do we have it? And there are some risk scores that you can put together, but you can do simple things like, did your parents have heart disease? And very particularly, and we will talk about it, what is our blood pressure?
Right.
And our blood pressure is not fine. I ask people all the time, how's your blood pressure? Oh, it's fine. There's numbers, and you need to know what those numbers are.
Yeah.
Weight. We all know this. Vanity is important, but weight control is also so very, very healthy. Getting physical activity, increasing those pieces and getting that activity. Certainly don't smoke. We know these things. We know these things. And very importantly, watch our diet very, very strongly.
Yeah. You mentioned, first figure out what your family background is. That's one thing. Then you say, don't smoke, which, smoking is such a big risk factor for everything,
Yes.
And then you talk about diet. And so is it as simple as not eating sugar, not eating fatty foods? What does that mean? Look, talking about do's and don'ts, what should we eat and what shouldn't we eat to decrease our chance of heart disease?
And I think probably most of us know it. We know fruits and vegetables should be at the top of our list. And I guess it's real great. I hear people eliminate, and typically I have the Southern diet, and you have the Southern diet. We know what we grew up on. But we also need to recognize that some of the things that we're doing were not particularly healthy. A very important piece is we don't necessarily have to completely eliminate those things that we really do truly love. Rather, we have to reduce it, to put it in moderation. We know this, and get some, like I don't have to get up tomorrow and run a marathon, but I do need to be physically active. And so those are some of the things that we reduce, we increase our healthy lifestyle and kind of continue on with that improvement. Awareness, though, as you stated, is so very important, to be aware of what we need to do and start to implement a plan that fits us.
We're talking to Dr. Daniel Lackland with the Medical University of South Carolina. It is American Heart Month, and we're talking about matters of the heart as far as how to remain heart healthy, because heart disease is the number one killer of Americans, not African Americans, not female Americans, not male Americans, all Americans. And if you are in America, you are at risk right now. Now, I want to say hi to Carl Horton. He says, hey, Trey, it's been a long time. Thank you so much, Carl, for watching. Please post and share this out so we can get this message to the masses, because as I said, this affects a lot of people now. So Dr. Lackland, you said, the first thing is, making sure you know what your family history is, because if you do have a family history of heart disease, you are at greater risk. Now, what about people who find out there's no heart disease in their families? Is there anybody out there?
Well, we'd like to meet them. And there are people out there, and yes, there are. But that's still, even those people that are what you would consider to be the healthiest, the people that live into their 90s, and studies have shown this, 90s, even into the hundreds. These great people that many of us have at least one person in our family that at least we heard of. Even they're benefited from living a healthy lifestyle, and in particular blood pressure, which we'll talk about. Blood pressure control in a 90-year-old is still good. The 90-year-old with a lower blood pressure is still healthier and is better for their heart health and their brain health than a person who does not. So these risk factors are important for everybody, actually, regardless of your family history.
I want to say hi to Charlene McKnight. Thank you, Charlene, so much for watching. Again, just please post and share. You know, you said something earlier that I just kind of thought about as far as eating, and you know, that you want to eat right for vanity, but you also want to do it because it's the right thing to do for your health overall. And, you know, today we're talking about heart health. But you know what? The other thing I want to mention, Dr. Lackland, and I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking about my mother, who was not a large woman. She was very thin. Sure. That don't be fooled by the fact that you are thin, that you might not have a heart disease. You know, you could be, like you said, exercising. And she ate well. She was thin. She was a smoker. She was a drinker. Okay. Her mama had heart disease, you know, so she had some things that were in her favor on one side, but not in her favor on the other side. And I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm doing this, but not doing that, so I'm okay.
I think it's a wonderful story. I had a colleague not years ago, and he said, well, I said, I noticed you're smoking. Why are you smoking? He says, well, I've got my blood pressure under control, so I figure I can do something about it. Right. And unfortunately, that's not really the way it works. It works that we have these risk factors. We'll hear a little bit more about the simple 7, and there are 7 steps. And what you want to do is, we all, myself included, we want to address each of those 7 and do as best as we can with each of the 7.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about, do you want to talk about the simple 7 now, or go to do's and don'ts?
Let's do do's and don'ts.
All right. We're talking to Daniel Lackland. He is the professor of epidemiology at MUSC. We're talking about heart health because it is a Heart Month, American Heart Celebration Month, and we're celebrating your good heart and your good health. There's some do's and don'ts that you can do, Dr. Lackland says. And what are some of the do's? Here we go.
Okay, I think top of the list, again, as we've been talking, understand that blood pressure is related to heart disease, and it's related certainly to stroke as well. Understand that is a major risk factor, and perhaps the major risk factor, and also something we can do about.
Right.
We talked about awareness. Know your blood pressure numbers. And again, I hear people all the time, my blood pressure's fine, or it's doing well. That's not, there's no such thing. We need to know, you need to know the numbers, and there's 2 numbers that are important. It's the systolic, the top number, and the diastolic, the bottom number. And you should be aware of those over time. And each of us are able to do that.
Okay. All right. So know your numbers. So are the numbers the same for everyone?
Absolutely not. In fact, they're actually, if we wanted some special identity, blood pressure is one of those special identities that each of us has. Blood pressures go up and down, as we all know. And that's why it's important to know your blood pressure values. And so the next piece is, most of us have a set of scales at home, and we all kind of know at any moment kind of what we weigh. We might not like it, and we may argue with it and may not lie. I tell people when I get on the scales, I'm buck naked, and I promise because I want every quarter of an ounce I can possibly.
Dr. Lackland, I don't even have a scale at my house.
Well, we need to get you one. I understand. Blood pressure, though, it can be so important, and it's very similar to weight. That you need to know what your blood pressure is, and you know, Trey, to your point, it's actually a little bit more, because you can look at me and say, why don't you lose some weight? And I can tell when I'm putting on weight, not without getting on scales. I just know it. I can look at myself. You can't look at me and tell me what my blood pressure is. Right, and you can't look in the mirror and guess my blood pressure. People say, well, my blood pressure goes high when I get a headache. Boy, that's when it's real high. That's scary when it gets to at that. But most people in fact, a long time ago, or we stopped doing it. We called it the silent killer.
Yeah.
And we're not calling it the silent killer, not because it wasn't silent not because it didn't kill, but because nobody wanted to have something that was called the killer in their.
Yeah.
But it's very silent, and that's why getting your blood pressure taken really as often as you can.
Yeah.
It's free. Drugstores, grocery stores, all kinds of places have instruments, and it's also becoming very popular. The instruments are fairly inexpensive, and to have something that you can measure your blood pressure at home and know what that is, and that helps. And I give you one more scenario that many of us, myself included, I'm what you would call a white coat hypertensive. I'm hypertensive anyway, but when I go to my doctor's office, my blood pressure goes up. And some of us that are like that.
Right.
Well, it's so important for me to measure my blood pressure at home so that I can tell my doctor,
give him a true number.
This is what the true number is. Yes. Well.
Yeah. So, Dr. Lackland, so you said that the right blood pressure is different for everyone. So there's not a, so how do we know when we're high or low, for that matter?
Well, pretty much that's a great question, and I think it's that's where we want to measure it. And so we have, you can say in these situations my blood pressure goes up. These situations my blood pressure goes down. Many people have said one of the worst places to get your blood pressure measured is at your doctor's office, and because there's so many things that can affect it. You're wondering what's going to happen. Is this going to hurt, whatever it's going to be? Yeah. And you're thinking about that. Another one that's a little bit perhaps funny or whatever. When we go, we think maybe we're going to have to do a urinalysis. And so we go to the doctor's office with a full bladder. Well, they're measuring the blood pressure on a full bladder. A full bladder, having to go to the bathroom, depending on how full it is, can account for 6, 8.
Wow.
And I know I've never told my doctor, even if I have a full bladder, that I have a full bladder and I'm about to pop. I'd never said that.
Well, you know what? The other thing is, if you have a full bladder and you have to go, that could raise your blood pressure just because you're trying to hold it in.
It does. No, exactly. You're exactly right.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, you're exactly right.
We're talking to Dr. Daniel Lackland with MUSC about heart health, do's and don'ts. Let's go back to that list, Dr. Lackland. We said, do understand how your blood pressure relates to heart disease. Know your blood pressure numbers. And you say, do take your blood pressure at home. And of course, like you said, many pharmacies, you can get a blood pressure machine.
Yes.
And then, of course, you said go to the bathroom before getting your blood pressure measured at the doctor's office. I want to go back to one quickly because I want to say again, just kind of, hit home with how does blood pressure relate to heart disease?
Okay, the increased blood pressure wears into the lining of the arteries and stuff and parts of the heart. For a heart attack, you basically have a blockage, and the blood pressure, if you can imagine, it's just kind of doing damage to the lining of the arteries, and that leads into a kind of a clot, and it prevents the blood from getting to the heart, into the heart muscle, and you have a heart attack. And so it kind of works there. With a stroke, it works a little bit differently. You can have two types of stroke. One is a blockage of the blood vessels in the brain, and it prevents the blood from getting to the brain. The other piece, though, is when you have a rupture in which the vessel absolutely ruptures, and that's typically due to this high blood pressure that's added into the brain, and that's when you have a bleed. Right. And so both of those are bad. It contributes. The good side, though, Trey, is all the studies, years and years of studies have shown among all of us, all people, that if you lower the blood pressure, you lower the risk. And so we know that if you have high blood pressure, you have a high risk. But the beauty of blood pressure, I think, is that we can do something about it. And if we lower blood pressure, we can lower it with drugs, you go in that drugstore gets it, but lifestyle also is very, very effective.
Right.
And if you put all of those things together, you can greatly reduce your blood pressure. And as you're doing, and people are thinking, well, I'm taking medication, I can be obese and everything else. But there is a chance now that in our day and time that if you can lower blood pressure with lifestyle, you can go off of the medications. And even if you can't go off the medications, you reduce the dosages of the medications. And that's where the side effects are. The side effects are with the high doses of the medications. So if we're able to do everything and lower our blood pressure with a low dose of medications, we can live a pretty good high quality of life.
Yeah, and that's what I just want to urge people, because you're right. People are so quick to say, well, I take medicine for it. So like that's an open door to do whatever you want, just live just wild and crazy. But what kind of quality of life do you have? What kind of quality of life do you want? And as you said, and as we say a lot on this show, particularly on Wellness Wednesday, that there are some things you can do to change your lifestyle where you don't have to take up your medication. You can get off of your meds.
Yes.
By just simple lifestyle changes. I'll share the story that I shared it before when I had some problems with digestive. Well, not digestion. Well, I had some digestive problems. I was hoarse for like almost a year, a couple of years ago. They thought it was my sinuses. They thought it was polyps. Found out I had a severe form of heartburn. The gastric juices were going up, searing off my vocal cords. To make a long story, probably even longer, the doctor said I had to go on medication. So I said, so how long am I going to have to go on this medication to keep the acid down in my stomach? He said, oh, you're going to have to go on it forever. I was like, well, what's my alternative? He said, well, you could stop, eating this, and this. So I asked him, why didn't you tell me that first? He said, most people don't want to change what they eat. They want to eat what they want to eat. Now, it's a lot, no chocolate, no acidic fruits or vegetables. So that means no tomatoes, no lemons, no limes, peanut butter, stuff like that. But, no fried food. But you know what, Dr. Lackland, I chose that over having medicine for all of my life. It was tough at first, but I love me. And I want to be around not only for me, but for my loved ones. So, and the bonus, I lost a lot of weight. I wasn't obese, but I lost a lot of weight. And now I can have a little bit like once a week or something like that.
It's a wonderful story. And I think it builds in one of the big issues, and you described that wonderfully, is salt and our salt intake. And we're in the South and we eat salt. Okay, we do. That's just the way that's the way that we were brought in. But what we do need to do is goes back almost. We need to know our blood pressures. We also need to know our salt intake, and we get most of our salt, which does raise blood pressure, from many processed foods and from restaurants is where we're going. And that doesn't mean don't eat at restaurants. It just means be aware, just like you are aware. I'm aware of what I'm intaking. And we have a little thing where we ask about foods, and I'm not picking at one type of food or another, but some Chinese foods have a lot of salt in there. And so we asked the question to providers. We said, how much salt is in this particular, in this group? And they didn't know. And in some cases, some of the meals that we were showing them was a week's worth of sodium intake that what we would recommend you're taking in that one meal. And if you don't know that, you take it in and your doctor says, well, how's everything? Your blood pressure is a little bit up. And I said, well, I'm just eating regular foods. I'm not eating anything. I'm not adding food and salt. So he ups my dose of my medication. And then when I start eating better, my blood pressure comes down real far. So knowing that information, knowing blood pressure, knowing what you are intaking, I think is top of the key. And we can all do that, right?
Yeah. We're talking to Dr. Daniel Lackland. He is head of epidemiology at the Medical University of South Carolina. Let's talk about some of the don'ts. I want to say before we get to that, you're watching Coping with COVID. Wellness Wednesday is sponsored by In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. If you need some information or need some help to help control your diabetes, or if you are pre-diabetic, please visit the In It Together Facebook page. As a matter of fact, they have a new cohort, a new class coming up, courtesy of Salubrous Pharmacy. If you will visit that information, there's the information right there. Thank you, Lauren, on the screen. Check it out. And this is just such a great time at the beginning of the year. It's February, and heart health and love and Black History Month and all of that good stuff going on. Anytime, really, it's a good time to make a decision to do what's best for you and the people that you love. So check out that great class that's coming up. And it's a class with information, materials, resources, but also a great support group. Okay, so we're doing the do's and don'ts of blood pressure. Let's go to the don'ts, Dr. Lackland.
Okay, and again, Trey, you got right up on top of it, the very first one. Don't stop taking your medication. So if you feel bad, if you have side effects, tell your doctor.
Right.
Don't assume, well, I'm eating good now, so I can just go off my medication because they said we could on the show. No, go use your medication, working with your doctor. Don't quit. Salty foods we've spoken about. You want to reduce that salt. We all have to have some salt, but let's reduce the amount that we're all eating a bit too much that we shouldn't have it.
Right.
Very important, as we've been talking about, don't be afraid to ask questions about your blood pressure. My parents, God rest their souls, were wonderful people, that they were afraid to ask their doctors anything. They would ask me, they would say, would you please talk to my doctor and tell me what he said? And I said, well, Daddy, what happened? He said, well, I just sat there. I said, he didn't say anything to you for 15 minutes. Nothing was said to you, nothing that I could understand.
Right.
Don't be afraid, and write it down. And that's what your doctor wants to hear. Your healthcare provider, they want to provide you with good information. So just ask it, and don't be afraid, and share all of these types of information. And
of course, don't rely on blood pressure monitors for accurate readings. That's interesting.
Yes. One of the pieces, and we've been talking about how important it is to have an instrument, a device that we could have in our home. And these monitors are relatively inexpensive, but you want to get one that's very, very valid. And there's a lot of things that you can get either through the internet or even in stores that are less accurate. And this is one that you want to have a machine. They're very important to have, but you want to make sure it's valid. And what we would recommend is that you take a machine, you can ask your doctor for a recommendation, or if you do have one, take it to your doctor and make sure that it's compatible with what you're getting measured at the clinic, and make sure that it's valid and that type of thing. And that's the piece off of that.
Now, the other thing, I kind of skipped ahead. It says, make sure the office staff positions you correctly when you take your blood pressure. How are you supposed to be positioned? What's the correct position?
It's great. It's a wonderful question. You want to be resting. You want to be sitting with your feet on the floor, and you don't want to be talking. And this is, again, you want to have that conversation, but knowing that proper position. You want to be seated. You don't want to be up on a table looking down. You don't want to be standing. All of these things affect your blood pressure. And I've shared, even for ourselves, I've had my blood pressure taken when it wasn't so proper. In fact, I had one experience. I went in, this was a post-surgery piece, and I had on a coat, and they came in and put a cup over my arm and took my blood pressure. And before I sat down, they said, "Oh, your blood pressure's fine." I said, "Well, that's a magic machine because there's no way." And so you want to be aware of the proper technique and as comfortable as you can. If they're asking you questions while you're having it measured,
That's not good.
Don't answer the question.
Right.
Be quiet. Know what the proper way is, and you probably don't want to get into an argument and say you don't know how to measure blood pressure, but
I'm ready to say, because if you're at the doctor's office and they're doing all this that you're not supposed to do, when it comes off my arm, I'm going to say, why are you asking me questions while I'm getting my blood pressure taken? Don't you know Dr. Lackland said you're not supposed to do that?
That's right. And so very tactfully, make sure as best as you can that it's there. And if it's, and again, this is another piece where you can take an active role, where if you're getting your blood pressure measured at home or somewhere else and you're doing it properly, then that's where you can have that dialogue with your doctor and say, well, when I do it this way, when I do it at home, my blood pressure has a different value, and indicating that, making sure that we know the proper way to do it. And if it's not being done properly in the clinic, try to tactfully report accurate measurements.
Right. Nancy Richburg says, let's make lifestyle changes. Nancy Richburg, of course, is the doctor that is facilitating the upcoming class that I mentioned from Sallybrist Pharmacy. Charlene McKnight says, great tips. Thank you so much, Charlene. Please continue to post and share. And Michelle Harris says, the wrist style home blood pressure monitors can be less accurate than the upper arm monitors. Is that correct, Dr. Lackland?
That is correct. And if you wanted to think just simple physiology and it's a blood pressure, and the most accurate blood pressure that you could possibly have would be right from the heart. Would be right there in the heart. And so we can't do that. We're not going to stick a needle in you. But so you want to be as close to the heart as you possibly can. And that's where the upper arm is closer to the heart. So it's more accurate than you would get from the wrist. And
that makes perfect sense. Yeah. But for the most part, those home ones are pretty good.
That is correct. And again, you do want to make sure that your doctor or your doctor's office is on the same page with you so they understand. And if you think about how it could be, if your doctor agrees with you and says and knows that you're measuring the blood pressure properly and accurately, same time every day or whenever you're measuring it, he or she you could actually call in your values and maybe eliminate a doctor's visit if that's all you were looking for was the blood pressure, just as a good thought. So it's good, just like our weight and everything else.
Yeah. Dr. Daniel Lackland with MUSC, thank you so much again for all of this great information. Like Charlene says, great tips, great information to know as we celebrate and commemorate Heart Health Month and do all that we can do to help us stay heart healthy, because as I said at the top of the show, it is the number one killer in the United States. But again, if you just joined us, please hit the replay, because as you could find out, there are things that you can do to help yourself right now today, whether like me, your parents or your grandparents had heart disease, or if you are part of the 2 people in the whole world that don't have heart disease in your family. You can still get the help that you need. Dr. Daniel Lackland is going to rejoin us coming up next when we bring in Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association here on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. Hey, listen, if you want help to help manage your diabetes, visit the In It Together website or Facebook page. And Nancy Richburg with Sallybrist Pharmacy is currently registering for their next online class. Check it out and start right now getting the help you need to change your life for the better. Coming up, once again, more heart health from the American Heart Association next on Coping with COVID. I'm Trey Taylor.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.
This flu season arrives during the COVID-19 pandemic. Groups at risk for serious illness from COVID-19 and flu are similar, but complications from flu are much higher in young children. Everyone over 6 months of age should get a flu shot to help prevent more illnesses, hospitalizations, and deaths in South Carolina.
The flu is not just a cold. Each year, many South Carolinians are hospitalized from the flu and even die.
Getting the flu vaccine is the best protection against the flu for everyone in your family.
The flu vaccine is safe, effective, and does not cause the flu.
You can make a difference this flu season by protecting yourself from the flu.
It's important that I protect my baby.
It's important that we protect our families.
It's important that we protect our schools.
And our students.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important.
It's important that we protect our state.
Talk to your healthcare provider, pharmacist, or health department about the flu vaccine today.
Every cookie sold in the Girl Scout Cookie Program helps girls learn lifelong lessons in people skills, decision making, and goal setting. It's amazing how much you can learn from a cookie.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House.
Brenda Mallory is the first African American woman to chair the Council on Environmental Quality. The environmental law attorney is the director of regulatory policy at the Southern Environmental Law Center. Attorney Mallory served as general counsel for the White House Council on Environmental Quality in the Obama administration. And now President Joe Biden has selected her to chair the Council on Environmental Quality, making her the first African American woman to hold this position. Brenda Mallory, a Black history maker in the Biden-Harris administration.
Celebrating Black History Month, Coping with COVID presents African Americans in the White House. From TaylorMade Productions.
In It Together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. If you want help and information to help you manage your diabetes or prevent diabetes, visit the In It Together website and Facebook page. Plus, check the screen for info on a class accepting folks right now. Check it out. Get your family and friends to join you and break the cycle of diabetes or prediabetes in your family so you can live better. I'm Trey Taylor, and we're talking about heart health today as we celebrate Heart Health Awareness Month. Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association joined us. Dr. Daniel Lackland with MUSC rejoins us. Thank you, Jacqueline, so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Trey. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Want to say hi again to Charlene McKnight. She says, go red for women is Friday. Wear your red. It is Friday, isn't it, Jacqueline? And you have your red on today.
I do.
I think I see a little. Yeah, I see a little red in your tie, Dr. Lackland.
That's right. Right here. We're together.
I missed the memo. Nobody told me we were red today. Listen, tell me, Jacqueline, a little bit about the American Heart Association. What exactly does it do?
Sure. So, Trey, back in 1924, there were some cardiologists that got together and decided that we needed to do something about heart disease and about how it was impacting, like you said, so many people in the United States. And so out of that came the American Heart Association. It has morphed over the years, but today our mission is really remains the same, and that is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives. And we really highlight that in February, but we want people to really think about that all year long.
Right.
Heart health is so important.
It definitely is. Now, what type of services and resources are available from AHA?
Sure. So there are a plethora of resources. American Heart Association has its name that it stands on. So lots of trusted resources, lots of evidence-based resources. Dr. Lackland mentioned earlier what we call Life Simple 7. Just being aware of these 7 things that can reduce our risk for developing heart disease. So knowing your numbers, knowing your blood pressure, knowing your good and bad cholesterol numbers, thinking about whether or not you smoke, knowing your family history, knowing your blood sugar numbers, knowing, just thinking about physical activity, thinking about our diet. And so we have what we call My Heart Score, where you can look at the Life Simple 7 website. You can enter a code and very quickly get what American Heart Association calculates as your heart score. So your ability to see in what 7 of these areas do you need to improve to overall improve your health and specifically your heart health?
All right. So we see this is the website here. This is the My Life Check website here.
Yes. So
Yeah.
this is the website, and it's very user friendly. You can scroll down. There's a button that says "Get My Heart Score." You click there. There's a little code that you have to enter, and that code is AHA022. And
Mhm.
then you enter some information, and it gives you a score to tell you how you can improve on your overall health and thus your heart health. So very helpful tool, very user friendly, and really gives you a good baseline to see in what areas can I do a little more.
Yeah, I was going to say this is great. You can just go, and the link is right there. And as Jacqueline says, you can use the code AHA022 to get your heart score. And as you say, you can find out where you are and what you need to do. As you say, Life Simple 7, manage your blood pressure, control cholesterol, reduce blood sugar, get active, eat better, lose weight, stop smoking. All of these things are great. It's great information and great resources. And it's a great starting place, don't you think, Dr. Lackland, to kind of start your progress, your process, maybe before you go to the doctor, just to kind of see where you are, or even to help maintain.
Absolutely. And as Jacqueline suggested, it's real easy to use, very easy to use, and you can monitor yourself, and you can actually see that you're decreasing your risk when you've implemented these different lifestyle.
Right. We're talking to Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association. Dr. Daniel Lackland with MUSC rejoins us on Wellness Wednesday from It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. Jamie Smith says, very informative. Thank you so much, Jamie, for watching. Again, continue to post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. Now, that's a great resource. Tell us about some of the other resources, because I know there's something else about how to measure your blood pressure.
Yes. So Dr. Lackland mentioned it earlier, such an important resource, such an important number to know. And so the idea of managing our blood pressure at home, so related to COVID, a lot of people have, either fear of going into the provider, or providers are even trying to, just focus on necessary visits. So an important part of managing our blood pressure is taking that measurement at home, knowing how to accurately do that, and then recording those numbers and reporting them to our provider, as Dr. Lackland mentioned. So there are great resources on AHA.org at that link that was just shown on how to accurately measure your blood pressure. And there's even a very short video that gives a good walkthrough of how do we do that? What do we need to make sure we do before? What do we need to make sure we're doing during, and what do we need to do after to make sure that we're recording our numbers, we've taken it accurately, and that we have an accurate reading that we can feel confident about.
Right. There's the video. And then, of course, as you said, the blood pressure check, some of this great information that, Dr. Lackland even mentioned what to do before, during, and after you actually take your blood pressure and get it checked. And again, this is just such great information, for people to have so that we can take control of our health. And that's the thing. As you said, Jacqueline, a lot of people are skeptical, fearful, apprehensive about going into the doctor. But here you have great resources, great information on the American Heart Association website that you can do, DIY kind of, stuff.
Exactly. And they're trusted resources, right? So there's science backing them. So resources that we know we can put our faith in to direct us and kind of guide us and lead us to improving our overall health.
Yeah. Now, I know that traditionally you guys have had several great events over the years, and I guess you're going virtual this year. Tell us about what's coming up for the American Heart Association and how and why we should support.
Sure. So, COVID hit, and that kind of changed our world for a lot of people, right? Not just American Heart Association, but American Heart Association prior to COVID had this desire to move beyond the table and beyond the tent. So to step outside of our normal events and really make some impact in the community. So COVID kind of pushed that effort to the next level. So we have some things coming up. Our Heart Walk still remains one of our main events. We have our sponsor that's kind of kicking that off starting February 22nd. Heart Walk will happen on March 27th, and details to be determined, but that information will definitely be provided. We actually have our Heart Ball, which is taking place Friday, February 26th. That is going to be a virtual and digital experience that we are really, really thrilled about, because it's an opportunity for us to meet people where they are, right, in the comfort of their homes, but still they can still be a part of such a great cause. And so there's an opportunity for an enhanced experience, and that link is being shared. And there's an opportunity for you to just join us virtually, just to hear about our heart moment, our open your heart moment, to take a part in the auction that's taking place, to be a part of just this powerful celebration of, Heart Health Month. And then we also have our Go Red for Women luncheon that'll take place in April, on Thursday, April 22nd. More details to come on that, because we are still kind of figuring out what that looks like in the virtual setting, and whether or not it will be virtual. So AHA is a health organization, and we are definitely prioritizing the safety of everyone in our community. So we want to make sure we do these events, still make an impact, but still allow people to be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, there are links on the screen right now for more information about the various events. They're always really great that the American Heart Association does. And, I don't know if you know, I typically every year, Brenda, and I said to myself, I'm not going to remember her last name. She gets me involved in the Heart Walk, where I sing the national anthem every year. And of course, it was not one last year, and looking forward to whatever it's going to be this year. But there are such great events. Why do you think people should get involved with the American Heart Association, Jacqueline?
Such a great question. So we know the statistic is 1 in 3 women are impacted by cardiovascular disease. One is too many, right? Even if it's just one, but it's still the number one killer across the United States for both men and women. And so I really encourage people to think about this on a personal level, right? With that statistic in mind, we all know somebody who this is impacting. For me, it's my aunt. And so I go red for her. I walk for her. What I do is for her, but to make that personal connection. But the involvement is just the next step to saying that we are united and committed to this thing that still continues to be the number one killer of people we love, admire, and that are close and dear to our hearts. And so I think it's no pun intended, but I think that is just so important that we emphasize that we make it personal, and that's a reason to get involved.
Yeah. Jacqueline Atkins joins us. She's with the American Heart Association. Daniel Lackland, Dr. Daniel Lackland with MUSC is joining us here on Coping with COVID as we commemorate Heart Health Awareness Month. Now, we know that a lot of people hear about the spokespeople, you guys have a contest. I don't know if it's really a contest, but a call for women who have heart health stories every year. And I know you've already done that and chosen your spokespeople for this year. Are those them right there?
Yeah, so these are our real women. That's a picture. Those are not necessarily the ones that are in the Midlands, but we have chosen our heart survivors for this year. But that's always an opportunity. We welcome our volunteers, are the foundation of our organization, whether that's volunteering because you're a heart survivor or because someone close to you has been impacted by it. But if that's you and you want to tell your story, or if that's you and you want to get involved, we welcome our volunteers, because we absolutely cannot say enough that they are the foundation of the work that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, but the two of you, what can people do today? If there's one thing both of you would say that people can do today to turn it around, to protect themselves, so to speak, from being part of the statistic that heart disease is the number one killer of Americans, what can they do? Jacqueline, you can go first. Ladies first.
Perfect.
Sure. So I would say start small. So sometimes I think things seem so big.
Yeah.
We think about, oh, I need to change this, I need to change that. Especially if we're thinking about those 7 areas, start small. If it's physical activity, start with walking to the mailbox, right? Start and then increase that. But start small so it doesn't seem that it's unreachable. And I think we each can do something small every day in each of those areas to make a greater impact in our overall health. So my thing would be start small. Start small and start somewhere.
Yeah, start somewhere. I love that because you're right. It can seem so overwhelming. Oh, I got to do all of this when, just one bite at a time,
Right.
just one bite at a time. What do you think, Dr. Lackland? What can people do? One thing people can do today, to turn it around. Maybe, like you said, maybe like even, what Jacqueline said for her aunt, your parents, my grandparents had heart disease. You know that you're already predisposed to it. Maybe. What do you do? What's one thing you do today?
Well, if we pick the one thing, I think Jacqueline hit it beautifully and bring it in there. But I would put in blood pressure and blood pressure awareness. And in one sense, in this day and time, with the COVID-19, reducing the number of people that are able to go to their doctor's office for many of the reasons that we do have, this is the opportunity to be aware of our blood pressure and to know what we can do to reduce the blood pressure, whether that be lifestyle or that be pharmaceuticals. And that would be right there at the top. And that's something that we can all do, recognizing that nobody does well with high blood pressure.
Right.
This is one, the lower the blood pressure, regardless of our age, even adolescents and children, the lower the blood pressure, the better off we are.
Yeah, great. Dr. Daniel Lackland with the Medical University of South Carolina and Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association. Thank you both so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. We sure do appreciate all the great information that you shared and just pray that it will motivate, inspire, encourage someone to do just one thing today. You can do just one thing today. And then every week, do another one thing. And then you will greatly decrease your risk of heart disease. You owe it to yourself and to the people that you love on this Heart Month. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on Coping with COVID. I appreciate you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. In it together, and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Hey, don't forget the links that were shared by Jacqueline Atkins with the American Heart Association. So many great resources there, the do's and don'ts from Dr. Lackland. And of course, if you want help managing or preventing your diabetes, visit the In It Together website and Facebook page. And don't forget that Dr. Nancy Richburg actually has a class that is starting very soon. So you see the information on the screen. Make sure you register for that so that you can get the information that you need and start changing your health and your life for the better. Once again, you owe it to yourself. And you can definitely do it. Jamie Smith says she enjoyed the show. Great heart health information. Thank you, Jamie, so much for joining us from Michigan. And Nancy Richburg, Dr. Nancy Richburg says great program and information. Thank you, Dr. Nancy Richburg, for joining us and for the work that you're doing. And hopefully we can get some folks to sign up for your class. Listen, if you have a story that could help someone cope with COVID, why don't you go over to the Taylor Made Production page on Facebook, inbox me, and we would love to talk to you about spotlighting your story or your initiative. Do you have a product or service that can help someone cope with COVID? Email copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. You see the information scrolling at the bottom of the screen, copingwithtreytaylor@gmail.com. And we would love to have you be a proud sponsor of Coping with COVID, just like In It Together SC, the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, SCDHEC, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and of course, Palmetto Media Connections. Now, Thursday, tomorrow, cookies and COVID. We're going to talk to Girl Scout Cookies CEO Laura Tucker, and I'll be eating cookies, and we'll be talking about cookies. Also, the first female African-American mayor of Florence, South Carolina, Teresa Irvin, joins us. Then Friday, Faith Friday, New Year. Our series continues with Rashonda Pratt. She's going to tell you about how she left her job, stepped out on faith, and launched her own successful business, and how you can too. Plus, if you live in Columbia, South Carolina, you're going to want to listen up for this big announcement from City Councilwoman Tamika Isaac Devine. She's actually going to make the announcement at noon, and then she's going to join us at 2 o'clock to talk about it. And then next Monday, George Wallace joins us for Fun Day Monday, featuring Kapanda Narciso with little known Black history facts. It's going to be a fun show, so we look forward to seeing you. That's coming up on Coping with COVID. As always, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. Today is February 3rd, and Jesus says, "Today, I am with you and for you." Wow. You face nothing alone. Nothing, it says. When you feel anxious, know that you are focusing on the visible. Man, I needed this today, and leaving me out of the picture. The remedy is simple. Fix your eyes on what is seen, but not what is unseen. Verbalize your trust in me, the living one who sees you always. I will get you safely through this day and all of your days, but you can find me only in the present. Each day is a precious gift from my Father. How ridiculous to grab for future gifts when today's gift is set right before you. Receive today's gift gratefully, unwrapping it tenderly, and delivering into its depths. As you savor this gift, you will find me. That's your Jesus Calling for today, Wednesday, February 3rd. I'm Trey Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us once again on Wellness Wednesday. It's brought to you by End It Together SC and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council. Until the next time, I wish you peace, abundant blessings. Please, please, please stay safe, stay well, and don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. See you guys.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Trey Taylor.